I don't remember who it was because so much conversation goes on in the Discord, but they actually used something that I feel like should be a mission statement going forward. And what he said was, I should have known the moment that Reddit lost its shit over a series that maybe it wasn't going to be that good. Hey, what's up, bookworms? Mike back with another weekly update as we are rolling along through March here. We are past the halfway point and lots of things going on the channel. Lots of things are going to go on with the channel as usual. I thought for spring break with the kids off, it was going to be a little bit of a slower week, but I actually put out more videos this week than I usually do. So, you can never really predict these things. But guys, lots of things going on. What are you up to? We're going to talk about that in the comments. But first, let me tell you what I did this week. Let's start like we always do with what am I reading. I finished All Systems Red as the first book in the Murderbot series, and that's kind of what I was joking about in the cold open there. I don't think this was a bad book, not at all. I just didn't think anything about it. I was kind of indifferent on it. It's 130 pages of... I really don't even know how to explain it. Like, people have asked, are you going to do a review for it? No, there's nothing to talk about. Like I said, it's not just that it's that short. Like, I can't think of anything the review would be like 4 minutes long. I really don't know what to talk about. Now, I am going to keep going with the series. I am going to keep going. There's short enough reads. I don't feel like that's a huge enough commitment to keep going. So maybe it'll change a little going forward. But again, I didn't hate it. I just didn't understand why all the hoopla over it. And I don't know. I mean, if you guys really loved it, drop in the comments and tell me why you really loved it. Again, I didn't hate it. I'm just kind of indifferent on it. I didn't really feel I didn't feel anything. That was the problem, I thought, with the book. I continued working on Shadow of the Gods, though. Very good. I'll tell you why I've not finished it yet here in a minute, because you usually would think I'm going to blow through a John Gwen. Not just because I told you I was going to take my time, because it is a review copy. That's easier said than done with the John Gwen book, because it really is a one more chapter kind of thing. It's because at the same time I started doing this, Assassin's Quest, the last book in Farseer, beautiful edition, by the way. I love to show it off because it's so beautiful. I got about that far, and I said, I think I need a break from fantasy. I really think that I tried to go in too hard doing 2 fantasy series at one time, while also still recovering from a Malazan hangover, which is a very real thing, guys. It really is. And you guys who haven't finished Dead House Gates yet, and you keep saying, what could possibly have got you to this point? Read it, and you'll find out. I just said I needed a break from fantasy. I didn't know what to do. I was like, I knew I wasn't going back to Lee Bardugo, because that would not help me get through a read slump. So I said, I have been putting these off for years. My wife has been telling me to read these for so long, and I love the first book. That's the whole thing about it. I love the first book. I think Elizabeth is a magnificent character. I was very, very intrigued with that first book. So he said, you know what, let me go ahead and pick that up. I've already done about half of it since I started. It's really getting into the mystery, I guess you will, of this book. The mystery in the first book completely blew me away. I never expected what actually happened in that book to happen. I was guessing up until the very, very end, and I was wrong. I have a feeling this one's going to be the same way. Bit of a slow start, because I think with this one, the first book, it seemed like it was primarily just Lisbeth and Blomkvist as the main characters. And this one, you're jumping like I'm all over the place. You're with the police inspector. You're actually with the guy who, let's just say, he isn't a decent person. He's from the first book. I don't want to spoil it in case anybody knows that, because it's such a big part of that first book. And you're also looking from just other characters. I don't want to get into each character here, but you're doing with so many more characters than just them. And he's got the 2 characters that I love, Blomkvist and Elizabeth, kind of separated in this one. But there's really getting to the point where you can tell there's about to be a convergence. It's really, really good. So I'll imagine I'll finish that this weekend. Then I'll get back on Shadow of the Gods and Assassin's Quest. That takes me into what am I going to read. Obviously, I'm going to finish Shadow of the Gods and Assassin's Quest before March. That's the goal. Shadow of the Gods, who knows? My review isn't coming up for that until the end of April, so I've got time. That's not really anything I want to rush. It's a John Gwen book, so I want to read it. So maybe I get this fantasy funk kind of off of me. Maybe I'll get back into it. But that's the thing, guys, is I'm reading Memories of Ice next month, and you don't want a fantasy funk when you're starting a Malazan book. Trust me. So I think I'll make sure that I make it a point to finish Assassin's Quest in March. I don't think that'll be too hard. It started okay. It started really okay. I don't really know any other word to use for it. I really liked where she was going, and then it reached that first point in a Robin Hobb book where, look, yes, she writes beautiful, but write some plot. Come on. It was really 100 pages of like walking through the snow, and I was like, I don't even know what I'm reading right now, and that's why I said I need a break, I think, because I'm starting to be disgruntled when I'm reading this absolutely magnificent writing, and that just didn't seem right. But yeah, I will finish that one before the end of March. Obviously, my review is going to have to be backed up probably until April for that. But starting in, actually in April, I'm actually not doing the Into the Multiverse for this. I'm doing Into the Multiverse for the Tommyknockers because I'm not doing a reread of that because I just reread it in 2019. So I'll be reading ahead a little bit. I'm going to be doing The Dark Half by Stephen King. And this is one I haven't read since high school, which was a lot of these are. I don't remember anything about this. I think that the deal was when I was 15, I didn't have any interest in this. And look, this is his first book sober. This is after he had that great intervention after Tommyknockers, and we're going to talk about that when I talk about Tommyknockers. But this was his first book sober. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it. Again, I don't know if it was just my memory. Maybe it was just something. I even said that about some of those Crichton books. It's just like when I was 15, that wasn't what I wanted, you know? And I think it might be a little different now. I don't know. I don't feel like anybody really talks about this book when they talk about his best. So I'm looking forward to revisiting it. And then speaking of Crichton, we'll be wrapping up this collection here of the 3 books with Great Train Robbery. That is the Crichton read-along for the month of April. And that should take me into, before I get into the heavy hitters, which are going to be Malazan and Hyperion. Finally, God, this seems like the bucket list year for some of my series. I want to read Malazan, Hyperion, things like that. Just some stuff, Robin Hobb, things I've always wanted to kind of get off the list there, and I'm actually finally starting on some of them. Let's go ahead and talk about this week on the channel. Like I said, I did put out another couple. I've been doing about 3 videos and a weekly update, or 2 videos and a weekly update. I don't know, like 3 to 4 a week since I went back to work. I'm going to actually push up 5 this week because I had an idea, and I just decided I wanted to go ahead and go with it while I was thinking about it. First up, I wrapped up the spoiler talk for Dead House Gatesville Part 2. That is obviously something that's fun to talk about because after you finish that book, there's so many things that you want to talk about. You just want to get off your chest. You want to vent about them. And that was really kind of therapeutic for me, hearing the feedback from a lot of people. Except the one guy who every single time I make a Malazan video has to say, hey, once again, I got to tell you, you got to speed up your reading schedule. I'm not speeding up the reading schedule. Okay, look, everyone that's involved with that read-along is on board with that reading schedule, especially after they saw how much Dead House Gates took out of them. They're glad there's those breaks now. And look, AP Canavan, I'm sure that's not the first time that's happened to him, and Steven Erikson have both, yes, Steven Erikson, have both told me they really think that's a great idea, doing it at the pace that I'm doing it. So I want to say it's because you guys hope that I'll talk about these books faster. You don't want to wait 2 years for me to talk about all these books. But I'm not going to forget things. You keep telling me I'm going to forget things. I have these videos to go back to. I make good notes. Guys, I took a 6-month break on Wheel of Time, and everybody told me, oh, you're going to forget everything. I didn't forget anything. So I'm not worried about that. We're going to keep to the schedule. I do wish I had actually made it 3 months for Memories of Ice instead of just 2 months because it's a honker of a book. But again, these books don't get smaller. And I think it would be nice the way that we're doing it to kind of take December off because December can be kind of crazy for everyone, especially if they are part of a family. The other review I did this week was for The Terminal Man, Michael Crichton. Again, part of the great Michael Crichton reread/read-along. I feel like that's a book of his that not very many people talk about when they talk about Michael Crichton's because it wasn't like a big hit movie or, at least a recognizable movie. I won't say a hit movie. And I think that really is a reason a lot of people haven't went back and discovered it. But I think it's an incredibly underrated book. The movie, not so much, and I talk about that in there. But fun book, quick read, especially if you need a palate cleanser. I definitely think that is the way to go. And then I did a video that was about I don't understand this whole tag thing. A lot of people on the Discord have been understanding what these booktubers are doing with the tag, the fantasy book tag, and the new booktuber tag, things like that. They explained it to me. It's a neat idea. I just decided to kind of go my own way with it. I just wanted to talk about some smaller booktubers that I really like. When I mean smaller, I mean like 10,000 or less subs. or channels you haven't really heard of. Like everybody's like, why didn't you put Petrick on there? Look, I talk about Petrick all the time. That's my guy. I think that you guys know who Petrick is. I was trying to kind of spotlight a lot of the people that maybe you hadn't heard of at this point. So that was kind of the goal there, was getting some eyes on those 11 channels that I mentioned. And most of them have reached out to me and told me, you know, thank you. You gave us a big bump in subscribers and things like that. So I hope a lot of you have found a lot of new content to go out there and find, because those are all good people. And I feel like they're all still small enough that they're still very, very honest and fresh with their content. There's not a lot of repeats or a lot of pandering, as I like to say. I feel like some of the larger channels have started to do now, where I remember, you know, a year ago you weren't saying this. Now all of a sudden you are. And I'm not saying people can't change. I'm just saying sometimes people listen to their audience maybe too much. Again, that's an assumption on my behalf. Take that for what you will. It's definitely not shade. Just like it wasn't shade when I talked about The Wheel of Time. Now, you guys know I started doing these series that I started on the channel called The Good and the Bads, where I'm going to take a series and talk about everything I loved and talk about everything maybe I didn't care for that much. And again, completely subjective. But you know, when you talk about Wheel of Time, you're going to get up in the fields a little bit, because people are very protective of it. I understand. They've grown up with it. So I get that. When someone who's only a 2-year veteran, I just crossed my 2 years on the 16th of when I first started Eye of the World, they don't like it. They don't like it. Like I said, it's like you have a little brother and you can pick on it, but nobody else can. So everything I felt like I listed as the bad in that video is everything that even the most about Wheel of Time fans have said is somewhat of an issue with the series. But again, you know, when I say it, wheelies be mad. I'm always going to say wheelies, guys. You're just going to have to learn to live with that. But I had a good time with it. I feel like the conversation's been mostly positive. There are a few people who are really, really angry about it. And again, I don't know. I got called arrogant by one person. Okay, whatever. I hope you enjoy. You know, thanks for watching. I'm glad you watched the video. But it's a series I'm going to keep doing for other big series that I love. Like I said, I plan on doing for First Law. I plan on doing one for Stormlight Archive. That'll really get the crazies out. I could do this for any series. I could do it for Lord of the Rings, guys. I can do this for anything that I love. It isn't just necessarily something that I want to rail on. I know I started with Lycanius, which you guys know I'm kind of like, you know, more good than bad kind of thing on. But Wheel of Time, there are lots of issues I have with it. And you have a 15-book series, it's going to happen. You're going to have some issues. So I thought it was a completely objective discussion, and I had a good time with it, and I hope that you did too. Let's talk a little bit of what I got planned for next week. Like I said, I had my Assassin's Quest review on the schedule, and I realized I'm not going to make that. I'm not going to finish the book, much less have time to actually put together a review for it. So that's going to get moved back probably until April, because the week after next is going to be like Malazan wrap-up week. Sorry if you guys aren't reading Malazan, but hey, that's kind of like the premier thing on the channel this year. I can't believe so many of you are dropping out already. Anyway, next week, speaking of Malazan, I will be doing what I call beginning my character power rankings. Now, what I want to do for each book, because when I did Wheel of Time, I always did the Wheel of Time wish list after, and I always had that was a good break between it. But with Malazan, you don't even know if those characters are going to be in the next book, much less saying, here's what I hope happens. So I decided I'm not going to do wish lists for these. What I'm going to do is I'll take each book. Like, for example, I'm going to start here with Gardens of the Moon because I missed it. So I'm going to do this one retroactively. And after I finish, like, the spoiler talk to the veteran, and things like that, I'm going to do character power rankings for that book. What I'm going to do is take that book and say, these were my 10 favorite characters in this book. And maybe a couple honorable mentions because, you know, there's a lot of characters. But, and talk about why. I'm going to try to make those... no, you know what? Those are probably going to be spoiler. Who am I kidding? I got to tell you why. And if you haven't read the book, you're not going to care who I think the best characters are, probably. I don't know. You guys give me feedback on that one. Should I do spoilers or not spoilers for that? But I'll be doing Gardens of the Moon next week. And then the week after that, after I talk to Philip Chase, when we talk about Deadhouse Gates, I'll do mine for Deadhouse Gates. And then going forward, after I finish a book, I'll do a character power rankings. It's kind of like a wrap-up for it. I'm going to go back off the books next week, guys. This one is, I just kind of said that I feel like the last couple have done decent, so I would like to do one off the books per month. I think that's fair. I don't think that's going off brand or anything like that. So what I'm going to do next month is a conversation you might have seen if you were on the Discord join the Discord. A conversation you might have seen there recently was talking about favorite film trilogies, and I'm going to talk about that for Off the Books this month. I'm going to talk about a lot of film trilogies and talk about why a lot of the ones that you're probably going to say, whoa, why didn't you put this on there? I'm going to talk about why they're not on there. So should be a fun conversation. It really, when you get into trilogies, you get a lot of people are like, oh, well, you know, one of those three movies isn't that good, but the other two are so good. I mean, no, that isn't my rule. My rule is 3 good movies make a good trilogy. Not 2 great ones and 1 okay one, not 2 good ones and 1 great one. No, 3 great movies makes a great trilogy for me. So I'm going to have a tough grading scale on that. So I think you'll see a few surprises on there. Even if you have been on the Discord, you've seen a lot of those conversations. You're going to see a couple that you might not have heard me talk about that I've thought about since then. But I love talking about some good old film trilogies, and I'll even have a couple of rules on there. Where probably think that people think I'm cheating. Like basically, if you made a part 4 like 25 years later, yeah, it don't count. It's still a trilogy. There, that's my barometer there. And then the big one next week, at least I think it's going to be a big one. A viewer recommended this, and I've got to give credit to Moyd over at Media Death Cult for giving this person the idea. He said, Moyd did this video over there, which, check it out. I'm going to link it because I like Moyd. I don't know why. It's like a lost puppy or something, you know. You just, I guess I got to take care of it. But with Moyd, he does a lot of, you know, blank for beginners or top 10, things like that. He did one that was really good, sci-fi books for beginners. And, you know, he talked about a lot of books. If you're just getting into science fiction, these are good places to start. And this viewer said, hey, why don't you, have you ever considered maybe doing the equivalent of that for fantasy? You know, and Moyd will insert his joke here about how I only read fantasy. No, it's a lie, but it's fair. I thought this would be a good idea to do for fantasy because I've gotten a lot of people on the server from that horror video that have come over and said, you know, I really like horror, but I know that your Discord, they don't talk about horror a lot. It's mostly fantasy, and I'm not really into fantasy. Wouldn't even know where to start. So I thought, hey, I can help with that. So I'm going to put that together. I think that'll be a fun conversation. I think that it will be kind of like Moyd said in his sci-fi one. Now, this is going to be fantasy for beginners, not fantasy for complete fucking morons. So it's not going to just be hand-holding series. There are going to be a little bit of a challenge to them, kind of where it depends on your reading level, where you start. But that is always going to be something that is fun to talk about. Just like it's fun to talk about some TV and movies, guys. I got some TV and movie things here. Apparently, the Snyder cut of Justice League is really good. And I just thought at first, I thought, oh, these are just like, you know, full-on fanboys. I've went on record multiple times, guys. I am a DC Comics honk, have been since I was a kid. It has been the Justice League and then everything else ever since I was a kid. Spider-Man was about the only thing that ever cracked into that for me. Maybe the X-Men later. But yeah, I've always been a DC Comics guy, and I've been very disappointed with the interpretation that the Zack Snyder universe has made on these characters. That's not the characters I grew up loving. But a lot of people I know who feel similar to me have watched the Snyder Cut today and said, you're going to be happy. It's very good. I'm like, well, is Green Lantern in it? And they're like, well. But I'm definitely looking forward to giving it a shot. I know that I did say recently I feel like it's just going to be more of the same, just longer. I mean, if that theatrical cut was under 2 hours and this is 4 hours and 2 minutes, obviously there's going to be a lot of stuff in here we've never seen before. So I've avoided all I just looked at some of the headline reviews and things like that. And I mean, even the critics who have made no secret they don't like Zack Snyder or his style of filmmaking have been like, it's actually quite good. So I'm looking forward to doing it sometime this week. And I don't know when the kids will give me, 4 hours to myself. We'll probably break it into two nights of 2 hours or something like that, I think. But it is rated R, so I'm not going to let the youngest watch with us as much as he may not like the idea of me watching a Batman movie without him. But hey, them's the breaks, But I'm looking forward to checking it out. And I do know that recently I said, guys, I was out on the MCU, and that kind of upset some people. Well, you're in luck, because my kid actually saw the trailer for Falcon and Winter Soldier and said, are you going to watch that with me? He didn't have any interest in WandaVision, but he wants to see some Falcon and Winter Soldier. And I said, sure. Now, look, guys, it's not like he's asking me to watch like Barney or something, or the new Tom and Jerry movie, which he did ask me to watch. But again, it was ever a thing. I was like, I refused to watch any of that. I wasn't making it a point to watch any of the MCU anymore. I felt like it was kind of over. But sure, I'll give this a try. And as long as he wants to keep going, I've got no problem making like a family night thing like we did with Mandalorian. Sure. You gotta enjoy that bonding time before they get so old that they don't want to do anything with you anymore. You gotta enjoy these things while they're young, right? Pretty soon they'll just be locking themselves in a room, being like, leave me alone, while they're on their headphones and their devices and all that stuff. Lastly, you guys, Wheel of Time fans, you do know there was a sneak peek of the Wheel of Time TV series. I mean, like 5 seconds. Basically, it was a reveal of Rosamund Pike as Moraine, and that's it. I know that there are other booktube channels out there that have made like 20-minute videos about this 5-second clip. I'll say that I think that her wig looks like Henry Cavill in The Witcher, kind of rough. But again, I've been called a doomer anytime I talk about that show. I've got expectations checked. That's where I'm going to put it. I think she's a fantastic actress. I think if they write her like Moraine is from the book, I'm going to love her. That's one of my favorite Wheel of Time characters. I do wish she would have just dyed her hair black, but again, these are things that you just get used to. I think about how excited some people are for it, and I understand. I think back to way back in like the year 1999 when they revealed the first image of Gandalf with his staff standing in Moria for the Fellowship of the Ring. And I sat there and Zapruder filmed that thing for like 20 minutes, just looking at every little detail, looking for things. And then a lot of the backlash was, oh, it looks like Party City cosplay. So you never really know these things until you see the finished product. Just kind of, let's just wait and see. That's my approach with Wheel of Time, guys, is just wait and see. So be careful, Willies, don't get after me. So guys, that was my week. What are you up to? Drop in the comments and let me know. And have yourselves a great weekend.